Welcome back to Left Anchor. I'm Alexei the Greek.
And I'm Ryan Cooper. So we're just the two of us today, just like old times. And we thought we'd start with a paper that I wrote for the People's Policy Project called The Leisure Agenda. And
good title.
Yeah, this is a paper about work reduction and ways to give you more time off work, more time to goof off. We as Americans are losing the goofing off sweepstakes. The goddamn Germans are whipping our ass. We're working over 1,700 hours a week, 1,700 hours a
It feels
year.
like that. It feels sometimes like 1,700 a week, but on average, 1,700 a year, right?
Yeah. Actually, 1,739 hours per worker on average. And the Germans are at just a bit over 1,300.
Well, that fits the stereotype of those lazy Germans.
Yeah, God, when are these Germans going to get off their
They're just
hanging around
their
in lederhosen and eating some bratwursts,
drinking their warm beer.
Yeah. The Greeks, incidentally, this is somewhat outside the scope of the paper because it's mainly focused on rich countries, like how rich countries have arranged their labor institutions, basically. But the Greeks work, if I believe, over 2,200 hours on average. So they're the stereotype in that case is completely backwards. The Greeks are just about the hardest working people in Europe, the ones that can get jobs, of course. So anyways, Americans work a lot, the most number of hours among, if you sort of restrict yourself to the really cutting edge economies, we're talking about, Germany, the Nordic countries, France, Canada, the United States, Japan, Korea. The U.S. works the most out of that group. And if you adjust, do a trend line for the whole OECD, you find that as countries become more productive, they have more GDP per hour worked, they tend to work fewer hours, which makes perfect sense when you're thinking about public policy because, okay, we're richer, but, we can make more crap per hour of labor time. So we could take some of that in vacation and just produce somewhat less. And that, in fact, accounts for, the United States has a much higher GDP per capita than most European countries. But that's just because they work less than us. They have similar productivity. They just take longer vacations and they don't have as much money, but they have a lot more time to if you've ever been to Greece in July, it is absolutely swarming with the entire contents of Northern Europe, which just sort of empty themselves out into the Mediterranean every year because all these countries just shut down for 5 weeks.
Yeah, the Greeks are busy working for the lazy Germans who aren't working.
And the lazy Norwegians and the lazy Danish.
Sidebar for the patrons that don't know us well enough, we're just joking about laziness. We think it's great to have leisure time.
Yeah. The trouble is that you don't have a converse situation where the Greeks could go and experience some snow or something and go skiing in Norway, which is how it should be ideally.
Fun fact: Northern Greece, snow. Really topographically different.
As much snow as Norway?
Probably not.
You get snow at any point of the year, at least for a while. Maybe not be true for very much longer.
That's why Santa keeps his workshop up there. That's where Santa's workshop is. Yeah, makes sense. So Ryan, tell us more about this.
Yeah,
this policy paper, this study. What did you discover?
Yeah, we'll link to it, and I go through it fairly carefully. But the other thing to note about this is that back in 1970, the U.S. was more in the middle of the pack in terms of working hours for data for countries in which there's data available. And since that time, almost every country has, radically reduced their working hours, except for the United States. The United States is pretty much the only country that hasn't fallen really at all, maybe just a little bit since 1970 in terms of average working hours. And the reason for that is that over the years, countries have stood up a whole bunch of policies to let you get more time off of work. We're talking about mandatory paid vacation. U.S. is the only country in the OECD, I think, that has no mandatory paid vacation at all. Paid family and sick leave. Again, I think the U.S. is maybe one of two countries in the entire world, including like all, not just the OECD, that has no family or sick leave.
That's guaranteed, right?
That is guaranteed on a national level. A good retirement institution so that people can actually retire. America is sort of like middling in terms of our prime working age, 25 to 54. We employ like a decently high percentage of those people, but less than a lot of other countries like Norway or France, actually. And yet over 65, we're near the top. I think we're third among rich countries. Japan's a little bit higher because they have no young people hardly anymore. But the reason for that is that our retirement institutions are dog shit. We have a lot of people pretty meager Social Security benefits. We used to have pensions. We basically don't anymore. And the 401k experiment has just been a complete shit show. It was supposed to enable like broad-based saving among the middle class, but basically like the top, couple of income quintiles has accumulated almost all the tax benefits. And 40% of households aged 50 to 64 have nothing in a personal retirement account. And 2/3 of people in that age group have less than a year of income saved up in a retirement account. So, just totally inadequate levels of savings. Because, this is a fundamentally broken way to ensure that people can retire. It just can't possibly work. The only people, at bottom who have lots of money to put away are the ones who never needed it in the first place. And that, it's a dumb way to ensure for retirement. And,
so we're working longer, working more hours, working into older age, and have less savings personally and less savings provided by the government, making life more precarious now and in our perceived future.
Yeah. And people like to pretend that Social Security is a savings program, like you kind of sort of get what you paid into it according to how the policy is designed. But in mechanical terms, it's just a welfare program for the most part. It takes from the working, that's me and you and everyone else, who has a job right now and pays payroll tax, and it gives to the retired who are collecting Social Security benefits. Because that's the only way, that's the sensible way to do it. That's the thing about retirement, that no matter what you are doing, you got to think about this in terms of like real resources. If you are not working, if you are sitting and collecting income and part of the economic production, then that means that somebody else has to get that for you. Whether it's, through you spending down your stock of financial claims, or some sort of welfare system that just hands you income on a daily, or monthly basis or whatever. That's what has to happen for you to be able to live while not working, in our economic system. And it's always been like that, and when like hunter gatherers or whatever, when someone's too old to hunt, well, they just get a little portion of the the kill and the nuts and berries and so on, because like they're part of the family group or whatever. And you just got to get your head out of American ideology, where it's like, oh, I'm taking care of my own retirement, and I'm doing, because I have this pile of financial claims, that means that I do not require anybody else. It's like, well, somebody has to push the economy forward through time so that you have something to buy with your with your money.
And you're calling money financial claims. That's what you mean, right? Like
yeah,
the ability to have a claim on the thing that
Yeah, you have assets or whatever. You have a big pile of wealth. Well, for that wealth to mean anything, there still has to be this vast productive apparatus. And who makes the stuff that puts the things on the shelves at Walmart that you can spend your dollars? That's the workers. They make that happen
in China. Sorry.
They maybe make the stuff, but
kidding.
Yeah, they're putting it on the shelves here.
Yeah.
Anyways. So got a little bit sidetracked there.
No. So the leisure agenda has to do with the seeming contradiction that the most wealthy country in the world, I mean, it's probably close per capita with some very, very small countries, right? But one of the most wealthy countries in the history of the world, for sure, has its workers working on average more by a lot than the other developed countries and first-rate economies in the world. Why is that, and why, despite that, do we still have old people feeling like they have to continue working into old age, and why aren't people able to save given all that work? And does this have to be the reality? It seems like all the other countries, they reasonably take more time off as they get wealthier. And in fact, we might bring up John Maynard Keynes's letter to his grandchildren from, was it 1930? Something like that. Again, when we get to David Graeber's book, Bullshit Jobs, because he brings it up. But, Keynes, his 100-year into the future prediction was pretty spot on in terms of the increases in capital and accumulation and technological development, and how those would lead to productivity gains. The productivity gains were there, and he thought that would logically, right, lead to the ideological shift that people don't have to do that necessary evil of labor so much. They could have 15-hour work weeks, and we do, it seems, have the ability to actually do that as a political option if we so chose, right?
Yeah, and this is the conclusion of the paper, which is quite simple. Basically saying that, well, we have no paid family leave at a national level. Well, let's do that. We got no sick leave. Let's do that. Our retirement, our Social Security benefits aren't high enough. Well, let's dial those up. Pretty straightforward at the end of the day.
Add federal holidays.
Yeah. Add federal holidays. Add paid vacation. I say we go up to. I say we add another 10 federal holidays, which would get us up to 15 or so 3 weeks of vacation, and basically, every month we'll have at least one, and often 2 3-day weekends. This is something I don't mention in the paper, by the way, but I think that's something we should aim for in general, is 4-day work week. But that'd be a good way to start doing that, is to just like chip off, start having a 3-day. And
federally mandated so that people were mandated to have off that Monday or that Friday.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more guaranteed weeks that are 4 days, first of all.
Yeah. I say, you can incentivize that by requiring, anybody who's employed to have a 50%, basically overtime bonus if you're employed. And there are a lot of other ways you can sort of push people. And a lot of employers just follow what the federal government does. So that's, one way to go with that. Then, mandatory paid vacation time. And that I say 4 weeks, so that would put us in first place probably. Like that would cut our working hours down by several hundred at least. We're talking on the order of, for the ordinary worker who's doesn't have a family or anything like that. We're talking about another basically 2 months off per year.
It's huge.
Yeah,
It's huge.
enormous. And so, like the this is something I've often struggled to communicate to people that I know, like back in Colorado. Like they wouldn't even believe you that Sweden is like, it's like you got to pull up the Swedish government website on your phone and show them, how it works. Like, are you shitting me? 5 weeks a year?